I've been waiting all morning to do that. I don't know why the bell is there, but I'm glad that it was. So welcome everyone to the 5th annual KKB Sustainability Summit. I was just informed that we did this 5 years ago, which was on the 40th anniversary of KKB as an organization. So we are now in our 45th year. So thank you for turning out in great numbers on this cool morning here. My name is Wayne Kokritz. I'm on the board with KKB, and I will be your traffic cop today, working us through this action-packed schedule that we have here. So a couple of things I want to do before we get too carried away is go through all the basics. Bathrooms are out the back there. So there's a door on the left. There's a door right back there. If you do need to go during a speaker session, just please make sure that the door closes softly and quietly behind you. Exits are over there and over there. Just remember that your nearest exit may be what? Behind you. Exactly. Thank you. I do know it's 2023. We've all had cell phones forever, and we all know that to silence them, but there's always one. So don't be that one. Or unless you want to be that one, because then there'll still be that one. If you're along the center line here, there is a cord that goes from this podium back to the camera. So if you're crossing that area, just be cognizant. It is taped here, but it may be a bit of a trip hazard on the back there. So just keep your eyes open on that one. We can't do an event like this without a ton of sponsors. And so if you note on the cards on the center of the table there, we've got a bunch of them. And let's start running down the list. You'll hear from a few of them later on. But we've got Earthadelic, TBA, Help You Dwell, Cover Pro Roofing, the UT Geography and Sustainability Department, US Bank, Sesco Lighting, Workspace Interiors, the Carrick's Design Group, the Mortgage Investors Group, Tomato Head, the East Tennessee Realtors, Waste Management, which now goes by WM, just in case, and KUB. So a huge round for the sponsors to make this happen. So that's the sponsor side, but then there's a whole bunch of operational people that have to make this happen too. And for that, I would like to introduce KKB's Executive Director, Lizzie Gaver.
As Ryan said, my name is Lizzie Gaver, and I am the new Executive Director of Keep Knoxville Beautiful as of July 2023. So I'm really excited to be here. We had a great time planning this event, and I hope it is everything you all imagine. I want to take a quick minute to shout out all of the Keep Knoxville Beautiful board members that are in the room. A lot of them are hovering in that doorway. Could you all stand up and wave a little bit? We got Carlos, we got Tom over there, we got Amber, Wayne up here is our MC, Mackenzie's in the back over there taking pictures. And we have a couple other board members that'll be coming out throughout the day. And so just wanted to say thank you. It would not be possible without the support of our board and also without the support of our staff members. So I would like to have you all stand up, aka all 5 of us now. We've been growing a ton and I'm really excited. So we have our 2 AmeriCorps members in the back there, Nick and Jada, and we have our Director of Programs, Amanda Seal, and our brand new position, Director of Development Special Projects, is Jessica Rodocker here. So just want to say thank you. It would not be possible without these people supporting me and supporting this event. So back to Wayne.
All right. Okay. Just to warm up the room here a little bit. I mean, it's kind of hot already, but so just by a show of hands, and so how many people have been to a KKB summit previously? All right, I like it. Thank you. Thanks for coming back out. So a couple of years ago, we did a summit that was focused on transportation and alternative transportation and sort of transportation networks in Knoxville and where that was going. So on the theme of that, I want to see, we'll do a little quick survey here. By show of hands, how many people walked here today? Okay. How many people rode a bicycle here today? 1, I love it. Okay. How many people took the bus here today? 2, 3, okay. And then how many people drove here today? Okay, all right. We still got some work to do. All right, so great. Welcome to Knoxville. So second show of hands, how many people live here locally? Majority. So better thing would have been how many people are from here from out of town? Okay, all right. We're all here. Let's do it. So the next thing I want to do is just, again, call out some of our elected officials that are in attendance as well. So hopefully they'll raise their hand, and if you need to say a few words to them, they'll be very receptive. But this is a nice group. So let's see. We've got a couple of council members, and I apologize if I missed somebody. This is the list I've got, but I am very fallible and could mess this up. So city council members, Lynn Fugit, is she here? Is Lyndon?
She's gonna be here later.
She's here later. Okay, thank you. Lauren, do I see Lauren in the room? Lauren Ryder? No.
Lauren
Is also going to be here later?
cannot make it.
Cannot make
She
it.
just got an email saying she couldn't make it.
All right, you're setting me up here. Is there anybody else?
Tommy's here.
All right. Hey, so Tommy's here. Councilmember Tommy Smith's in the back. Cebe?
Is Cebe here? I don't know.
Cebe?
I've not seen her.
I'm representing all of them.
All right, Tommy. Okay. And former city council member Dwayne Grieve. He's also in the back corner. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention our Knox County School Board rep, Kat Bike. Right there. But what you were all promised, and we're here to deliver on, is our mayor, who just was recently reelected to her second term, come up and say a few words. So, City of Knoxville Mayor, India Kincannon.
Good morning. Thank you for the kind welcome, Wayne, and everybody here attending this conference. I want to tell you a little bit about how I started my day, because I celebrate Knoxville's beauty in many different ways. And this morning, I got up at 6:15 and went down to Meads Quarry with a few other brave friends and did our first of the season polar plunges. And I have to say, the sun had not yet come up, but the moon was up, and we could see the mist over the water. You couldn't even necessarily see the rock, but the water was warm enough. I swam across, not the whole thing. I just swam to the other side of the little swim area, and you could see the stars, you could see the moon, and that's not for everybody. But I have to say, the reason the jumping in the first time is the hardest part, but the rest of the day, and I'm here to testify, you just feel great the rest of the day. And I am so thankful for all the amazing beauty we have in this city, and that part of that is thanks to the beautiful nature that we have, and also that is a quarry that used to be an industrial, rock quarry, and now it's a beautiful place for recreation. And thanks to the investment of IAMS and the city and the county, it's a place that is safe for everybody to enjoy in safe and healthy and beautiful ways. So just wanted to say that I, as mayor, want to protect and conserve and celebrate and welcome that kind of beauty into everyone's lives in this community. It's really important. So it's so great to be here. I want to thank Knoxville, Keep Knoxville Beautiful, for having this summit and having all the summits, and for just being a great resource for this community. I want to thank Tommy Smith. Not only is he a member of council, he's a former president of the Keep Knoxville board. So he is a hardworking member of council and does so much to keep the beauty alive and add more of it in our community. So thank you, Tommy. Appreciate you. So part of my reason for running for mayor in the first place and my goals is continuing to serve another 4 years, and thank you for the support for those of you who helped me earn a second term, is to make Knoxville a more equitable, sustainable, and beautiful community. And that is not just about picking up litter. And I was like many of you, I went on litter pickup campaigns with my parents when I was a little kid in the county I grew up in, Loudoun County, Virginia. And, my mom in particular, my dad didn't really do it. Come to think of it. So shout out to the moms who get their kids involved. Dads do it too. Anyhow, my mom was the one who got us out doing volunteer stuff. I loved getting the T-shirt. The T-shirt was really, the swag was important. So good job having some swag, because it imprints things on even all the participants' minds. And I would go out and pick up litter and lament the fact that people did keep littering. And I'm so grateful for all the people in our community who work to combat litter and pick up litter. So how many of you have participated in a litter, volunteer to pick up litter? Yeah, pretty much everybody here. So thank you, good job. But this is so important to realize, and as a kid I didn't really realize that keep Knoxville beautiful and keep communities beautiful. Beauty is not just about the absence of litter, right? That's sort of the lowest common denominator. If we need to, at a minimum, not have litter in our community, which is an ongoing campaign. But it's about protecting our green spaces. It's about having land use that conserves our green spaces, that promotes trees and all those sorts of things. So it's about changing habits and rethinking our spaces. So I'm so glad that reimagining the asphalt jungle, we can't undo things that were done in the past, but we can repurpose them. And so I'm really pleased that's the theme of today's program. I also want to say that as your mayor, that the city of Knoxville is 100% behind this. And I want to give a shout out. There are a number of people here from the city of Knoxville staff. We have people from our Parks and Rec and Greenways and public service and policy and economic development and placemaking. So if you're a member of the city of Knoxville team, please stand up and let us give you a round of applause for being here. So we're here because we're working on these issues, but also we want to be inspired by the speakers who are here today to learn from what other cities are doing. We are open to new ideas, and today's concepts that might seem far-fetched or on the edge of things will become the routine expected things in the near future. We've already seen that happen, and so I'm really grateful for all the members of the City of Knoxville, waste management and trees and all the things that we do from engineering and placemaking that's going to help contribute to this effort. So I've had to focus on my first term a lot on things that I didn't expect to do, with COVID and some public safety and so forth. But I want to let you all know that I actually have a degree in urban and regional planning. And so sustainability through land use and through smart policies on growth has been part of my DNA from the get-go. So I'm so excited that I've been able to work on that in the first term and get to continue working on it in my second term. So just in this last few years, we have rolled out our first electric buses, and now we have about 16 or 17 all electric buses. And we are also about to unroll, you'll be among the first to know that you can now buy a CAT bus pass on your phone, and the ticket will be on your phone, and you can just like you do when you get on a plane, you can get on and off the bus without having to go to the transfer station to buy a ticket in person. But just know that the paper and cash options will always also still be available for people who don't have a smartphone or prefer the cash and paper method. So I know we just had one or two people use the bus to get here today, but we are in the process of improving our frequency of bus service through CAT Reimagined, and so really hope that more and more people can use that in a way that is easy and reliable and convenient in the years to come. So, and on electric buses, because they're quiet and sustainable. So we have 17, and 8 more are going to be delivered soon. We have also added more free EV charging stations around the city, and so I want to say that those are free. And we also did a survey to make sure that we were putting them in places, not just places where people already have, say, a Tesla or whatever, but places where they're not going to invest in an electric vehicle until they know there's a charging station nearby. So we're working on that in public spaces around the city. So please know that if you have a question about how to charge an electric vehicle in the city of Knoxville, look on our website, and we have maps of where we have existing ones, and you can also provide input on where you think we need more of them. And next weekend, I'm really excited that we are going to start a pilot program of pedestrianizing Gay Street. Yeah. This is something, our streets are public spaces, we own them, and cars don't need to be the only user or even necessarily the primary user, particularly in dense areas like downtown Knoxville. But I'm hoping that this pilot program where we're going to open Gay Street to pedestrians, we're not going to say we're closing Gay Street, because we're opening it up for people who are not in their cars, which is people who are in their cars will eventually get out of their cars. And then they need to walk to stores, and they want to, enjoy our city life. And so has anybody ever been to a city and they had a great experience and said, wow, that city had amazing parking? And no? People go to cities to get out and enjoy them. They need to get there, and this is not anti-car. We need, in Knoxville, particularly at the current juncture, it's pretty hard to live here without a car. But we want to make it so it's safe for pedestrians and bikers, and also for people who get out of their cars and walk around. So please enjoy that on the next few weekends, and share your feedback and patronize the businesses on Gay Street, because we want to demonstrate that pedestrianizing streets like Gay Street can actually be good for business, because that is how it's worked in other cities. So I'm thrilled that Keep Knoxville Beautiful is here to protect to pick up litter and inspire people not to litter in the first place, to protect our green spaces, to manage growth wisely. We are a growing community, and so that's one of our biggest challenges, is how do we find housing and use our land wisely to welcome the new people who are coming to Knoxville, and also make sure the people who are here already have a place, an affordable place to live. As I mentioned before, I grew up in Loudoun County, Virginia, and at the time I grew up, it just had 4 high schools. It was very rural. I lived on a dirt road that didn't even have a name, and we had no idea what was coming. But development was happening. People were moving there, and unfortunately, the powers that be at that time in this county in Virginia did not have the wherewithal to embrace smart growth. And there was a lot of paving and a lot of sprawl. And now it was one of the fastest growing counties in the country. And so when I go back home, it's unrecognizable. And the beautiful green spaces, they didn't get turned into parks with dense town centers that people can enjoy walkability. Instead, it's I think been quite harmed by sprawl. And so my attitudes about how to promote smart growth in Knoxville are definitely shaped by my experiences as a child, where farms and green space were all eventually just sold off into subdivisions on like 1 or 2 acre lots. So I have since had the benefit of, reading about planning and reading about Jane Jacobs and Robert Moses, and understanding how land use can be an important tool to accommodate growth and do so in a way that's sustainable and green. So I am also aware that today's today's solutions can sometimes be tomorrow's problems. You know, people, Le Corbusier and Mies van der Rohe, people thought they had all the answers, and then they sometimes have, some of the people who thought these answers were so good were not quite so good. Similarly, urban renewal. Obviously, right at this stage in the game, we all realize that there was incredible damage done by urban renewal. But at the time, people thought, well, this will help mediate blight and get cars to go places faster. And so I'm really looking forward to hearing how other communities have dealt with addressing the harms of urban renewal, both in terms of equity, but also reclaiming those spaces from asphalt into parks and green space. I've seen it done in the Big Dig in Boston. I've seen some exciting things happening in other communities like Atlanta and Charlotte we're going to hear more about today. And here we're doing it in Knoxville in bits and pieces. We are repurposing existing buildings, and some examples that I'm really proud that the city's contributed to are the adaptive reuse of St. Mary's Hospital. Some of you might have been at the ribbon cutting we just celebrated last week. Tenova closed down that hospital, but rather than tearing down the buildings, or rather than just having it be blighted property, we needed a new public safety complex for our police and fire departments. And a lot of people said, well, Mayor, it's so much cheaper and easier to build new. Just go find some empty green space and build new construction. And they're not wrong. It would have been easier. Building new is easier, and renovating old buildings, preserving historic structures, it's complicated, it's expensive, and it's totally worth it. It's totally worth it. And it's an example of, instead of being penny wise, pound foolish, we are investing a lot to restore and revitalize the St. Mary's property. And that is going to catalyze more investment. And that's how we do green growth and smart growth. We incentivize and model growth inside places that already have the sidewalks, that already have the stormwater, that already have the sewer, instead of trying to expand that out in places where it's not already there. So I'm really proud of the St. Mary's adaptive reuse. I'm excited about some things happening in the city in the near future at McClung Warehouse site, which has been just an empty blighted property on Jackson Avenue. I invite you all to attend a public input session November 16th, 4 o'clock, to share your ideas on how we can repurpose that really important space. And where sanitary laundry and other places that are owned by the city, that is one of my goals in my second term, is to take those public properties that we already own and redevelop them in ways that are consistent with a sustainable, green, and beautiful future. So I want to end my comments today with just saying, like, this is about sustainability. It's about making our city more beautiful, and it's about accommodating growth. But there's a book that actually Tommy gave me a year ago called The Happy City. Has anybody read it? By Charles Montgomery? Yeah, Jessica has. Anyhow, well, I recommend it because ultimately, the work we do on buildings, the work we do on transportation and infrastructure and on green spaces, it's not just about the capital projects. It's not just about saving money, although ultimately these things are true too. When we do this right, when we have great public spaces and when we have the spaces that are sustainable, where people end up having these encounters on the street where they get to know their neighbors, they meet, and it's a convivial atmosphere, it makes people happier. It makes people happier. So here's to keeping Knoxville beautiful and making this a happier, beautiful community, not just for now, but for generations to come. Thank you very much, and I look forward to the summit.
Thank you so much, Mayor, for coming in and sharing a few words. We're going to take a quick transition here. Those that have arrived, if you want to come on in and find a seat, we'll take a little bit of that, and we'll be back at it here in about 30 seconds. They never should have given me that bell. I'll be hearing that all day. All right, so we're going to get back into the programming. Other quick thing too, if you've had a cup of coffee, thank the coffee sponsor as well, CDG. So they are back there pouring right now, it looks like. So enjoy a good hot cup of joe. Want to introduce Mr. Josh Foreman from Earthadelic. He's going to give a little shout out to Earthadelic and then introduce our first sponsor. So come on up, Josh.
Thanks, Wayne. So as he mentioned, I am Josh Foreman. I'm the Director of Sales, Marketing, and Design at Earthadelic. We're a residential construction company here in Knoxville, and we specialize primarily in premium outdoor living spaces. So this includes pools, hardscapes, landscapes, and then a variety of high-end construction. So we're proud to be a presenting sponsor here at the Sustainability Summit, and even more proud to be a regular partner with Keep Knoxville Beautiful. And that includes being the first company here in town that reached the gold tier level of certification in their WasteWise recycling program. We're also an avid contributor to their Adopt a Road campaign. We like to get out in the street and do our part, get our hands dirty, and keep Knoxville beautiful, as they say. So one of our goals at Earthadelic is to create unique spaces for our customers that have an impact on their lives. And we love to do that in a community as well. So we focus all of our philanthropy on Knoxville's environmental causes and sustainability by working with organizations like Trees Knoxville, the Conservation Fisheries, IAMS Nature Center, the University of Tennessee, the Knoxville Botanical Garden, Legacy Parks, Foothills Land Conservancy, and of course, Keep Knoxville Beautiful. So with all that in mind, I am excited to introduce someone that would fit right in with the culture of Earthadelic. Our next speaker is a graduate of Clemson University and Georgia Tech. As a UT grad, I will not hold that against him, but he has degrees in both landscape architecture and a master's in civil engineering. He worked on significant urban design in the city of Chicago and now has moved to Atlanta, where he currently oversees the planning, partnerships, and programs required to advance the Stitch, which is an exciting initiative tackling Atlanta's sustainability improvements. Everybody, please welcome Jack Cebe.
All right, good morning, y'all. How's it going? I think everybody has gotten rounds of applause this morning, right? I think y'all should give yourselves a round of applause for being here today. I've been working on the Stitch for a year and a half now. I'm the most recent person in a long line of people working on the Stitch. Stitch has been around for 20 plus years as an idea. And it takes, it started as a grassroots kind of effort with a few people who were committed, who were persistent, who kept nudging the project along until we've gotten to this place, like in the last 2 years, where we have political support all up and down the ladder. We have these new infrastructure bills that just came through that are 2 years into about a 5-year funding period. So take advantage of those, Knoxville. And things are really taking off for this project. So just want to say it takes a long time sometimes, but once you establish a vision, get behind it, keep at it, plug past the naysayers, because big things can happen when you're committed to it. And y'all look like you're committed to making Knoxville better, so that's really exciting. I'm going to show a quick video by a friend of ours that gives a real quick overview of the project, and then kind of run into some more background, and then we'll talk a little bit about Knoxville. Everybody cross their fingers, hold their breath. Let's see.
Hello, I'm Andre Dickens, the 61st mayor of Atlanta, Georgia. Atlanta is on the cusp of something great. As we grow, it becomes more important than ever to continue bringing our communities together. That includes Interstate 75 and 85, known locally as the Downtown Connector. Despite its name, the connector cuts our city center into two, separating Atlantans from essential opportunities and each other. Now is the time for change. The Stitch is a once-in-a-generation project that will cap the interstates for 3/4 of a mile with a new 14-acre park that includes access to multiple avenues of transportation. This project will create an estimated 3,000 affordable housing units and 13,000 new jobs. It will also infuse $3 billion in development investments while saving more than $350 million in traffic congestion and related costs. Soon, empty parking lots and underutilized properties will be transformed into a vibrant and diverse community. That's due in large part to the funding and support provided by the Inflation Reduction Act and the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. On behalf of the City of Atlanta, I would like to thank the Biden administration, Senator John Ossoff, Senator Raphael Warnock, and Congresswoman Nikema Williams for their steadfast support of the Stitch. We eagerly anticipate your continued partnership as we work to move Atlanta forward.
All right. Thanks, Mayor. He does a great job every time. So, how many of y'all have been to Atlanta before? All right. I feel embarrassed not having been to Knoxville before, but you might be familiar with where this is. You might not have seen it at this time. This was taken in the 1950s, but this is Peachtree Street, the Peachtree Street, not the other 50 Peachtree Streets in Atlanta. This is in the heart of downtown, like the epicenter of Atlanta. This is a block away from where Coca-Cola was invented, so like center of the universe, right? And in the 50s, downtown was the place to be. This is where people went for all their shopping needs, where the department stores were. There were people living above stores downtown, offices downtown. And this was really the center of Black commerce in the Southeast, just a few blocks from here in the Sweet Auburn neighborhood. So downtown was this thriving center for the Atlanta region, 70 years ago. Now downtown looks more like this. This was taken actually pre-COVID. So as you know, office market has gotten worse since then. So, we are definitely good things are happening downtown. I work for the Downtown Business Improvement District. It's not all bad. But we're just a shell really of what downtown Atlanta used to be. And so how did this happen, right? This graphic, when I first saw it, it blew my mind. This is a period of 18 years in Atlanta. The bottom graphic's 1960 skyline of downtown. The top graphic's 1978. Completely different cities between 1960 and 1978. And I think, your eye gets first drawn to looking at the skyline and how, those kind of mid-rise buildings all got redeveloped into the big, large office buildings that really dominate downtown still today. But migrate to the foreground and look what happened to the neighborhoods that surrounded downtown. These people who lived adjacent to downtown, who worked downtown and all sorts of jobs, service jobs, supported downtown. Those neighborhoods don't exist now. They're highways, they're parking lots, parking garages. Because most of these neighborhoods were low-income, majority Black neighborhoods that were viewed as blighted neighborhoods. And, the powers that be, the urban planners, the leaders at the time, thought that better use of that space was highways to shuttle workers in and out from the suburbs. So these neighborhoods were razed. They were the people who lived there, who owned businesses there, who had churches there, were displaced throughout the Atlanta region, sometimes in public housing. And these were neighborhoods that looked like this. This is, I think, the Butler Street neighborhood. This is from Buttermilk Bottoms. And this is actually an image from the urban planning report, the Lochner Expressway plan from 1949 that planned out the interstates in the Atlanta region. The funny thing is you look at these houses, and these are houses that people would pay like millions of dollars for today if they were still there where they are. It's really a tragedy that happened all across the South and all across America the urban interstate planning and urban renewal projects. And in Atlanta, it displaced, I think, 24,000 people is what's estimated, in homes and businesses and churches. And like the mayor said, these are harms of the past that we can't make right. The harm is done. But there are projects like the Stitch and new visions that re-envision our urban centers as more equitable communities with affordable housing, with opportunities for small businesses, for minority-owned businesses, where we can start to create that equitable center of our communities again. I added this graphic in here kind of late. I went to a presentation of a report in Atlanta by the Atlanta Wealth Building Initiative that looked at segregation, racial disparity in Atlanta today. And I found this very striking. A lot of people think Atlanta's coined the city too busy to hate. Some people call it Black Wall Street or the Black Mecca, as a place where minorities and specifically Black Americans have a lot of opportunity. But this is what Atlanta still looks like today. Very clearly racially segregated, with the majority Black neighborhoods being separated from all the high-paying jobs, as you can see here. And that dividing line that cuts through the center of Atlanta, that follows the railroad tracks, that follows the interstates. There's some evidence that the term other side of the tracks actually came from Atlanta. And you see where the Stitch is located and where downtown is located. So it's really about reconnecting our city and reconnecting all Atlantans to opportunities by revitalizing the core of our city. So looking specifically at the area around the Stitch, we have one big parking lot, the interstate highway, surrounded by a lot of other parking lots today, and vacant buildings. An area that's like zoned as the most dense permissible development area in the entire city. It looks like this today. A lot of open space, vacant buildings, huge roadways that were built to serve the interstate, get people in and out of downtown very quickly. And so a lot of room to work with, which is the great thing. But the striking thing is when you look at downtown compared with like literally a quarter mile, half a mile away, the property values are, just a fraction of what they are in Midtown a few blocks away. So it's not because, nobody wants to be in this area, geographically speaking. It's because it's noisy, it's loud, there are big roads that aren't inviting, that are unsafe. It's not a great place to be today. So the Stitch is really a part of the solution to getting people back downtown and to getting people living downtown, because in order to have a vibrant community center, you have to have jobs, but you have to have people there who support things like restaurants, who support things like small businesses, and who are creating that vibrancy and that energy in a city. People walking around, people coming up with art projects and community events and generating that liveliness that y'all are starting to see in your downtown Knoxville. It looks great down here just walking around. So kudos to y'all. So you heard the mayor earlier. Two big things I think that probably stood out were talking about reconnecting the area, but then also talking about affordable housing. That's a big priority for Atlanta right now. We have a huge need for affordable housing. I think Atlanta was top of the list for most inequitable cities in the country. And so the mayor is working very hard towards fulfilling that goal, and the Stitch has the opportunity to be a big part of that. In large part because around the Stitch, the city and affordable housing partners own about 30 acres of land today, which is huge, right in the middle of the city, right connected to the Civic Center MARTA station, our heavy rail line, so accessible to affordable transportation as well. This slide just shows a little bit more about the connectivity element of the project. So you see how, and this shows phase 1 of the Stitch is planned. You have connectivity not only north-south, but east-west. You saw the graphic earlier with the dividing line showing the racial disparity in Atlanta. There are not very many contiguous east-west corridors in Atlanta, so that connection along Ralph McGill and Ivan Allen that will connect the east side belt line to the west side belt line and east to west neighborhoods is vital to this project and to reconnecting our community. But back to affordable housing. Y'all may think this looks pretty similar to an auditorium here in Knoxville. In fact, it is. It was built around the same time, urban renewal project, well, very similar in a lot of ways to y'all's Civic Auditorium. This is the Atlanta Civic Center. It's currently owned by Atlanta Housing Authority. They've been working for several years with different developers and are finally moving forward with a plan to redevelop the site into a new arts-focused affordable district. And affordable housing today looks a lot different than what it has in decades past. You know, we know it's not a good idea to stack poverty on poverty, to concentrate poverty. What affordable housing looks like in its most successful form is when it's integrated into market rate housing, so that you have those connections, across economic classes, and it creates a more vibrant more opportunities for people living there. So this redevelopment looks like it's about a third that's proposed. It's about a third affordable units, about 2/3 market rate units. It includes a grocery store, which we don't have downtown, and reimagining that Civic Arts Center into a performing arts center, potentially for like an anchor like the Atlanta Ballet, as well as redeveloping part of the site into a new performing arts high school. So looking at the needs for downtown and ushering in new residents and trying to fulfill those needs with this new district they're creating around the Civic Center. This is another example of affordable housing project just a block away from the Stitch. We have a number of faith-based partners in Atlanta. Atlanta First United Methodist Church has about 2 acres of land right near the Stitch. And they're currently working to redevelop their property into affordable housing site with, you need, yes, 1-bedroom units, you need 2-bedroom units, but you need 3-bedroom units as well to support families with affordable housing. This will also have an affordable daycare. So the supportive services that residents need, who, are working jobs and with kids. So, really taking a holistic approach at, creating those affordable housing opportunities within the area of the Stitch. So the Stitch is going to cost a lot of money, right? $750 million is what we estimate for the park and the transportation improvements today. But it's really more of an investment. It's a cost, but we're getting billions of dollars of return in this area as a result of the project, and all these other inherent benefits that will make our downtown a more vibrant and inviting place. And then again, why the Stitch and why now? We have that support all up and down the aisle for the project. We have this incredible funding opportunity from the federal government with the infrastructure bill and the Inflation Reduction Act that has helped fund the Stitch so far. We're hoping will help continue to fund the Stitch. I've worked in transportation my entire career. I don't think I will see an infrastructure investment like this for the rest of my career. There's a good chance there won't be. And the clock is ticking on being able to access this funding. These discretionary programs have a 5-year budget cycle. So really encourage y'all to apply frequently and apply for, maybe as much as you think you can potentially use, with these grant programs. So the Stitch, it's a big idea, right? Some might think it's crazy, but the fact of the matter is there are a lot of these projects throughout the country today. Clyde Warren Park is one we look at a lot in Dallas. I'll speak a little bit more about that in a second. But we work closely with some of the other planning groups that are working on these projects across the country. Our friends working on the LID I-5 project in Seattle came up with this inventory. There are over 66 highway capping projects that exist today across the country. And there are just about as many that are planned for the future. Because cities realize that some of the most valuable land is currently tied up by interstates in their communities. And this is a way to unlock that land. So Clyde Warren Park, again, is an example from Dallas, Texas. It was I think it's around a 5-acre project, and they are currently expanding it because of the just huge success that it's been. It's highly programmed with activities, playground. It has a cafe in it. It's hugely successful and has transformed downtown Dallas, and which would not have happened but for this change. But highway capping isn't the only way that communities are rethinking some of their infrastructure that's serving as a barrier to their communities. This is a project that was just opened in Birmingham, Alabama, and was actually led in large part by the Alabama Department of Transportation. And they enhanced an area under the interstate that is elevated around their downtown. It's called City Walk Beeham. It's about 1.5 mile long linear park with program plazas and green space, with a world-class skate park. They're trying to get the X Games there. What better place to put a skate park than under an interstate? Pickleball courts. Everybody's always complaining about how loud pickleball courts are. Other ideas. Y'all have a river. You know how many cities would kill to have riverfront property downtown? It's a huge asset. Memphis has been working for the past several years to reimagine their riverfront adjacent to their downtown. Tomley Park was once a city dump, really nasty, polluted site that they've recently reimagined into this, verdant oasis. And this isn't a rendering; these are actual people there. It's been wildly successful in Memphis. So, maybe there are opportunities in Knoxville for, a prime site next to the riverfront that could be opened up. And I really love this example in Chattanooga, Walnut Street Bridge. I'm sure some of y'all have been there. It's a really cool story about this bridge was going to be taken down, and it's kind of a long story, but people saw a vision for it as a future pedestrian bicycle bridge. And now it's this jewel of the city. It connects both sides of the river. It's opened up some of their waterfront, and it's a place where festivals happen. People propose on the bridge. It's become this kind of iconic place where you can stand and have this wonderful panoramic view of the river and the city that you can't get anywhere else. And then lastly, the Atlanta Beltline. Who here has been on the Beltline? This is a linear park, a trail that's following old rail corridors that circumvents kind of the core of Atlanta. It's 22 miles long. It started out as about like a 2-mile segment but has snowballed into expanding. Now they have funding to complete the 22 miles, and now they're looking at actually putting light rail transit along it as well. So just goes to show, it started out as someone's graduate thesis, but with grassroots support, it has snowballed into this great asset for our city. Used to look like this. Now it looks like this. It's pretty wild what has happened along the Beltline in terms of transforming how people move around the city and think about these spaces. So y'all didn't think you were getting off that easy, right, Knoxville? This is what Knoxville looked like in 1935, and I've highlighted two areas here. We have Mechanicsville over here to the left, and to the right, this is, and I'm an armchair historian, so if I get any of my facts wrong, feel free to correct me. This is the Mountain View urban redevelopment area, formerly Church Avenue. Did I get that right? Anybody? Everybody? All right, pretty good. This is what these neighborhoods look like pre-urban renewal, pre-interstate development. Look how they change over the years. So this is 1969, when urban renewal is happening around there, the interstate's coming through. And then fast forward to today, you can see just how much the city has changed in the past 100 years or so. Mechanicsville looks very different than it did back then. You have to get through this spider web of interstates to get downtown, very disconnected from opportunities downtown. The Mountain View Urban Redevelopment Avenue, or Urban Redevelopment Area, or Church Avenue, used to look like this. This is the Church Street, Church Avenue Bridge, where the transit center is today, I believe, looking into the neighborhood beyond. This is what it looked like during urban renewal. Cleared all those houses, removed the street grid for the auditorium and the other civic uses there. And this is today. Y'all have a I would say underutilized area, nearly the size of downtown, of public space right adjacent to downtown. Huge opportunity, right? And we have it taken up probably about half of it by James White Parkway. We have a lot of green space, a lot of parking garages. What if James White Parkway wasn't there, right? It could be a park that connected east and west downtown, reconnecting to the Mountain View neighborhood. And what better place for mixed use, affordable housing than right next to a transit center that was just put in there, right? So just something to think about. Another potential opportunity, and this is, maybe the mayor stole my thunder. Y'all, I don't know where the pedestrianization of Gay Street ends, but I don't know. I see more people on Gay Street than cars right here. Why not just close it down to cars? Make it a pedestrian bike bridge. Easy win, right? And if that's too big of a pill to swallow, start on the weekends. Build the momentum towards and show the support for projects like this. And then finally, just looking at Mechanicsville, maybe there's an opportunity there to look at, the river, look at the river lines, look at, or I guess Second Creek, it's a creek, sorry, and the rail lines. And maybe there's a way to thread a pedestrian bike focused connection from Mechanicsville, from the adjacent neighborhoods to the east into downtown, to reconnect these neighborhoods to downtown and to opportunities. Thank you all for having me today. Please reach out, email me with any questions if you're ever in Atlanta. Would love to show you around. And really thank you. Just what a welcoming group. Y'all are a great city. Have loved being here and hope to come back soon. Thank you. Yeah, sure. Y'all do.
So we've got some time built into the schedule here, so we can definitely take some questions. Lizzie, do you have the handheld mic? All right, so hands up for questions.
Check, check, check.
Those of us who do not live in Atlanta do hear some stories about the lack of police protection and security in downtown Atlanta. And that is where this development is to take place. Police protection is an issue whenever housing and the restoration of neighborhoods is concerned. Would you talk a little bit about that problem in relationship to the development of the Stitch?
Yeah, sure. So whenever you see a news story about something bad happening in Atlanta, no matter where it happens, downtown is the image that gets shown up on the news, right? So downtown is actually statistically safer than a lot of neighborhoods in Atlanta for crime. So it's partly a perception issue, right? I think there are not a lot of people downtown right now. Like as I showed, we don't have a lot of people living downtown. And so that creates a sense of insecurity, I think, just walking around downtown by yourself, especially if you're unfamiliar with the area. We do have, a number of unsheltered individuals downtown. And so I think just, it's in a lot of ways a perception issue. And getting people living downtown is one key to reversing that perception, because you have, people milling about, permanent residents downtown that you see. It makes you feel comfortable as someone walking downtown. It also helps deter crime too. More eyes on the street, more people living in the area, more people reporting things helps to reduce the amount of crime in an area. So we work very closely as the downtown improvement district with the police force downtown. We actually we fund a supplemental security force downtown, which is important. But we really think that a lot of these issues will start to resolve themselves actually if we get more people living downtown. And we've seen that in other parts of the city, like Midtown. There's not this perception of crime just a few blocks away, in Midtown as there is in downtown. So thank you for that question.
Going to the back. I think I'm going to the back.
I can project if you want me to.
Speak up and project.
I'll repeat the question too.
The example that you gave of the Methodist church and as part of the Stitch, I'm thinking about that property. Is that historic church the actual property that's being renovated or refurbished, re-envisioned, or is it adjacent property? And I guess how did that come about?
Yeah, so it was actually it's property owned by the church, and the church initiated the project as a way for advancing their mission, because and we actually, there's another church I didn't show just north of the Stitch, owns 6 acres of land that's mostly parking lots, that they want to do redevelop their property for a portion of that as affordable housing and other services to support their mission as well. Because these churches, they realize that, in order to get people into their church, they have to live their mission. And then, these daycares are a great way to, introduce their mission to others that they're integrating, but they also provide a broader community service. So they're trying to reposition themselves as new community centers for these areas of town. So yeah, it's completely an initiative of the church. They're partnering with a affordable housing developer. They've gotten financing, financing sources. Gap financing is really important for affordable housing. We have a partner, Invest Atlanta, our economic development arm of the city, who's providing gap financing for that development. So a number of partners involved, but first and foremost, it's the church making that happen.
just to clarify, it is in that historic structure where.
So the historic structure is remaining. It's the parking lots that they own around the church. Yep. Yep.
I wanted to ask you, what about the redevelopment of the Braves Stadium, and is there any possibility of moving the prison out of downtown?
I'm probably not the best person to speak to those. The prison is downtown, and that's, I think, an ongoing discussion among a number of people. But probably, I'm happy to connect you with somebody who could probably speak more closely to that.
Hi.
Hey.
I used to live in Atlanta for a number of years in the area that you were pointing out.
Mhm.
You guys are doing this stitch. I lived and worked downtown in that area, and I know a lot of the surrounding roads besides the interstate system were always just a cluster. So I'm really, and you may have said this and I just missed it, but I'm really interested on do you see this redevelopment helping with that traffic that's surrounding it? And I may have missed that but I'm just really curious because all the roads surrounding there have always been bumper to bumper too. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I'm curious about the infrastructure of the streets, because I know that's a big issue in Atlanta, downtown, and if this will affect it at all.
Yeah. I will say yes and no. So I'll start out with the yes. Yes, we're hoping to alleviate the traffic in the area by getting more people walking, biking, and taking transit, which right now it's a pass-through area, right? People are getting off the interstate in this area downtown, going to their parking garages, to their jobs for the most part. The traffic is really around the peak periods. Yes, there is a lot of traffic, but if you go out there any other time besides the 9 a.m. rush or the 5 p.m. rush, it is just wide open. Not on the interstate, because there's a lot of through traffic at all times of day on the interstate, but on the local streets, the traffic really isn't there outside the peaks. And so, what we're hoping to do, we can't build our way out of traffic. It costs too much. You see, these interchange projects that are adding a lane cost in the billions of dollars now, and that's just for one new lane of interstate, and it gets more and more expensive as time goes on. So we're trying to reposition this area to be more accessible by walking, biking, and transit, because it has all those resources inherently. That transit station there, it's over an interstate. It's the number 2 most underutilized transit station in our downtown area, because it doesn't connect to anything today. But if it did connect to something, it could be a huge asset for people living there. So we're not trying to solve for traffic with this problem. Traffic may actually get worse as a result of this project, and we're okay with that because it means we have a healthier community as a result. Yeah.
Over here.
So I understand the attraction of walkable spaces. I think everybody in Knoxville loves our market square and spends a lot of time there. At the same time, we have an increasingly aging population, and along with aging, and I can speak from experience here, along with aging comes decreased mobility. I don't know many 80-year-olds that are still riding their bikes, for instance. I know there are some, but not as many. How do you reconcile the different needs, or how do you accommodate that population when you close off streets, for instance, and you can't no longer drive in that part of the street, and you have to walk? How do you accommodate an aging population with these trends?
Yeah, that's a good question. So some of the affordable housing, projects that I showed, those affordable housing units include senior specific living units as well. And it's really about having location efficient development, right? So, right now, your grocery store is a mile away from where you live in this area. Maybe where you have to go do errands here and there. It's very far from where you live in this area. But the redevelopment, that Civic Center site, we're putting senior housing next to community assets, to park space, next to grocery stores, with pharmacies, so that, you can walk out your door and get what you need in a lot of instances and not have to drive. Or, in other cases, we have transit service, just a block away, expanded transit service, that's accessible as well. We're not like taking away all the streets. Cars are still going to be able to drive on all these streets. So, there will be people who always drive. But what we're talking about is making the option so that you don't have to drive. And by doing so, we will hopefully reduce the demand on our system, by cars right now, and create healthier options, and really a higher quality of life for people of all ages in the community. Not only seniors. I mean, seniors have special needs. So do children, right? Children need to walk around. Where people live a lot of the times now with kids is, they want walkable neighborhoods where children can play in the streets and, walk to their friend's house. So we want to create that too.
I'm sure you're probably familiar with Paris, and they're trying to create a 15-minute city.
Yeah. I really love that concept. They framed it so eloquently with, some of their ideas. Yeah, similar. We're trying to do something similar, with this area downtown as well.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Just a quick question about the capping. So when you're capping there, it almost seems like you're almost making it like a tunnel in that capacity. So is there a big problem when it comes to like exhaust and noise and different things with the park structures around there, or do you find that that's mitigated?
Excuse me, that's a good question. We are technically creating a tunnel, and so and that's something that we work very closely with the Georgia Department of Transportation on, to make sure that facility meets all the safety standards for tunnels, and so that includes ventilation systems, fire life safety systems, closed circuit camera systems, all the sorts of, systems to make that a safe piece of infrastructure. In terms of the pollution, it's not necessarily, there's not going to be any more pollution there than there is today as a result of the tunnel. In fact, the trees, the green space that we're adding in this area, this is a huge urban heat island effect area. This is a particulate matter, a high particulate matter area. So, adding that green space in this area will help to filter out some of that exhaust, as well as there's the potential for the ventilation systems in the tunnel to also improve some of that air quality as well. And we're also working with GDOT on potential operational improvements to the interstate with the project as well. There are a number of very closely spaced ramps in that area, like exit ramps, that cause a lot of weaving traffic on the interstate, which leads to congestion, leads to wrecks. So, and there might be capacity for the upstream, downstream ramps to take that traffic, for us to close those ramps and to make a safer interstate and a more efficient interstate in that section, which also reduces particulate matter, emissions, that sort of thing too. So we're trying to tackle it from all angles. Yeah.
I'm going over here, and then we're coming over there.
All right.
Hi, thank you. So you mentioned that downtown Atlanta currently has a lot of unhoused folks, and a development project like this will ultimately, be pushing those populations elsewhere. Are there conversations a part of this project that addressed that need for secure shelter for those folks?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're this is a city-led project, and the mayor has I don't know what the current iteration is called exactly, but he's effectively opened the mayor's office of housing, within his mayoral cabinet. And we work very closely with them. There are other nonprofit partners downtown, like the Gateway Center, that provide temporary and emergency housing for unhoused populations. And the city's looking, when we talk about affordable housing, it's the whole spectrum, right? It's not, we need workforce housing for people like nurses and teachers and social workers. But we also need deeply affordable housing and temporary and emergency housing for our unhoused population downtown and people experiencing crisis. And so, there are efforts throughout downtown to create those facilities. The city just announced recently a temporary housing project by the Garnett Transit Station that will serve that kind of first line of getting people back on a track to a permanent housing solution. And so we're working with the city to try and figure out what that looks like, because right now it's very imperfect downtown, I will admit. We've had, our unhoused population downtown has been shuffled around from place to place, especially over the past several years. There are a lot of people under the interstates and some of the other parks downtown, and GDOT and other folks, that was a security issue for them. So they've gotten shuffled into Woodruff Park and other places downtown. And so, we're trying to come up with solutions where we can reduce the amount of disruption moving forward, and make sure that there are opportunities for those populations downtown, in conjunction with projects like the Stitch. Yeah, but it's complicated. I'm not gonna lie.
There were some hands over here. There.
Hi, I had some questions. You were talking about how you were repeatedly applying for funding from the grants, and I was wondering if you could speak a little bit to that. Is it that you're applying for phases of the project specifically, or certain components of it? And then I was also wondering if you could talk a little bit about your timeline. When do you expect this will be completed?
Yeah. So, we have taken an approach of apply often, and it has worked out for us so far. So we received our first federal grant for the project in 2021 through the RAISE grant program, and that was funding master planning for the project. So we've done, the renderings that you saw up there. We've done, up until this point, high level visioning, get people, here's some ideas, get people excited about what could be. With the master planning work, we're now doing more focused sessions with community members, with stakeholders, to understand exactly what the program will be, what the streets will look like, how we're going to operate and maintain the park over time, all those sorts of details. So that was funded by a grant we won in 21. Since then, we've applied for other funding sources to basically advance early engineering of the project, which is, we're working on master planning and engineering simultaneously right now. And so that's been funded by the Reconnecting Communities pilot program, which is through USDOT. The RAISE program is also through USDOT. We've also gotten some earmarks from our congressional and Senate representatives to help with the project, as well as there are formula programs that are allocated from the regional government, formula grant programs, that we've gotten some formula grant money as well. So all in all, we now have enough money for for planning, for early phase engineering, and for the if you're familiar with NEPA work, National Environmental Protection Act, it's a requirement of environmental processes like public outreach, ecological studies to look at the impacts of projects that federal projects require. So this money we have now will fund that as well. And we've just applied for, this master planning work has helped us break the project down into more bite-sized phases that we feel like we can, bite off with certain funding sources that we anticipate. And so we just applied for funding, another round of funding to fund phase 1 of the project, which would be a 4 to 5 acre interstate cap between Peachtree and Cortlandt Street Bridge. So just one segment of the project, and fund all those street projects as well. And so, it's a big vision, and we realize, via projects like the Beltline, that sometimes, the best way to make them happen is to start small and build momentum. And so that's kind of how we've come to this phased approach, that we think we can, target different federal and local funding sources for the different phases to help move the project along. Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you. I'm super curious what your community engagement process has been like along the way. So from the very beginning of the 20-year process till now, and how have concessions been made or compromise with the community related to the design of the project?
Yeah, well, so like I said, we're working on master planning right now. So we're really trying to figure out, what's going to go in the park, what the design of the park will be, and, really understanding, I think, with our budget, what we can do within that budget. So I imagine, that will really help us kind of level set with a lot of, what's been shown up in the nice renderings and everything. But in terms of the community process, part of the reason this is such a great place for a project like this and for affordable housing like this is there's virtually there are not many people living in this area today, right? And so it's the people who are there are really excited about, anything to make their neighborhood better. And so we've really gotten just almost complete support for the project from the community up until this point. We're not, the project has been planned so far that we're not displacing any businesses. The area on either side of the interstate for the most part is parking lots and green space today. And so it's not, a matter of, uprooting any businesses or buildings that are there today that are, beloved places or people's homes or that kind of thing. So I think that has helped us, in terms of the support as well. But, we're doing, in terms of specific community outreach activities, we're doing your traditional public meetings. We have one coming up in November. We're calling it our Fall Community Workshop, where it will be, an open house type format. People can come talk to the different planners, engineers working on the project, give their specific input on different aspects of the project. We'll have an online engagement tool that really mimics that in-person workshop. We'll make special concessions for folks who can't make that workshop. We'll set up that workshop basically at our office, and people can make appointments to come by and do it and give their input after the fact. We're doing pop-up events at things like neighborhood festivals. We have this great event on Peachtree Street called Streets Alive that has been on pause since COVID, but it just started back this year. They closed down Peachtree Street for 3-4 miles one Sunday of the month, and people come out in droves to just walk, bike, hang out on Peachtree Street. They set up food trucks. There are different sorts of activities along the way and games along the way. So it basically turns the street into a festival street. And so we're participating at events like that. But then we're also doing focus outreach to people who were displaced by urban renewal and by the interstate, and to those communities that are often underrepresented. With these types of projects, we've hired specialists to do things like go to churches and to knock on doors and to do that kind of almost detective work to understand who to talk to in the community. And so it's really a full spectrum kind of approach to making sure we get a very clear representation of the community in our planning process. Yeah, you're welcome. Lots of good questions. Thank y'all.
With all the green spaces and any other plantings that you're planting, has there been any focusing on native trees and flowering plants and grasses so that those use less water and require less maintenance?
Absolutely, yeah. That's there's a big deficit of tree canopy in our downtown area, and we have Atlanta is, I think, one of, if not the most prolific in terms of canopy coverage, tree canopy coverage across our city of any major city in the U.S. But our downtown and midtown area are the exception to that. It's mostly in the neighborhoods around the city. And so, there are huge initiatives right now. We partner with Trees Atlanta, which is a really great local nonprofit. Y'all should check out their work. They're partially funded through tree impact fees. I used to serve on the tree commission. And so whenever a development happens, whenever somebody, adds onto their house and needs to take down a tree that's allowed by code, or illegally takes down a tree and gets fined for it, that goes into a pot of funding that, among other things, pays for tree replanting. And that's helped, focus on areas that really need tree planting, that like downtown. And so we've been working with Trees Atlanta over the years to plant a lot of trees downtown. But certainly, we will be focusing on low maintenance, native, pollinator type plantings. I'm first and foremost a landscape architect, so that's near and dear to my heart.
All right, we're gonna hold off on questions now. We're gonna switch over. Let's give another big round of applause.
Thank you.
Let's go ahead. We're gonna start our next presentation at the top of the hour. So if you need to do a bio break or a electronics check, wherever you want to do that. So we'll be reconvening in 10 minutes.